Hello, everyone. Welcome to this ITM Platform training session. My name is Rene Alvarez, and I'll be your trainer for today. In today's session, we will speak about custom plugins. Custom plugins are a way of extending the capabilities in ITM Platform. And although they are a little bit technical, they are also meant for the end user, the customer, to create, right? So you don't require a full development team to create certain features that you will need from ITM Platform. You can build them, or some of them can be built through custom plugins. Okay, so this session is mainly technical, although again, project managers, the PMO, system admins will find it useful, at least to understand the extension capabilities in ITM Platform. As usual, let me remind you that this session will contribute with 1 credit towards the certification. If you are looking for this ITM Platform certification, you will need to get 10 credits, and those credits can be obtained through attending these training sessions. 1 month of use will also give you 1 credit, or you can obtain directly the certification by attending a full training course from one of our partners with a duration of 10 hours plus. All right, so without further ado, let me guide you through the concepts. First, I would like to speak about the main concepts in this solution. So let's first speak about the API, okay? Because the API in the end is what we will need to create these custom extensions. We spoke about the API before when we referred to Excel and Power BI reports. This time we are going to use it in a different way. Okay, so let's try to understand better what goes inside the API. So we do not interact directly to the database, right? Our data is contained in a database, but in order to manipulate it, in order to make changes or create stuff, create new projects, update them, so we use the API. Though most of the time we will use the browser, right? There is a web app that I can use through the web browser, and that is what I typically recognize as ITM Platform, okay? But I can use it also in plugins or directly consume it from Power BI, Excel, or Word. So it is going to be a way to communicate with a server. API stands for Application Interface, right? Non-human. So for example, if I would like to get a number of items, for example, tasks, right? I can get task 1, task 2, etc. What should I do with it? Well, the API will provide a list of different things that I can do with this information. For example, move it to a different application like Power BI, like Excel, exactly what we did last time, right? But I can also move it to external applications like SAP or a CRM system. There is another option. I can also connect the API to itself. In other words, depending on certain circumstances, I would like to change the tasks or change the project or create something that really does not depend on an external application, okay? Where can I get information about these custom extensions? Well, for that, I'm gonna advise you to go to developers.itmplatform.com, and actually we're gonna navigate to that in a few minutes to get the documentation about extensions. And here we also have our API documents, so everything really is in there. But this time we will focus on extensions, right? How to create this sequence of steps that will extend the capabilities in ITM Platform. Now, where can I create these extensions? In the configuration area, all the way down, I'm going to have the customization sub area, right? And just under custom fields, I'm going to find plugin panel. This is where I can see all extensions that I have created or I have turned on or off or somehow are installed into my system. We'll provide you with some common extensions, like, for example, connecting to and from Jira. But from here, since you have the new plugin button, you can also create your own custom extensions. And that is what we are going to do today. Okay. But first, again, we need to go a little bit deeper. Let me introduce you to how create those extensions. So here, basically, we're going to create a plugin, and then we're going to code what extension should do. Don't worry, you are not going to learn a programming language, right? It is not exactly that. It will simply use a very specific format that I'm about to introduce, right? But again, with the same concept, I can create new features in ITM Platform, or I can connect it to other third-party applications. Okay. For example, let me give you one case of using custom extensions. Maybe you have project managers in ITM Platform, and you have projects associated to clients, and these projects will bring revenue, right? What if you would like to see this same information updated immediately in your CRM? Well, so if I have those clients in my CRM, one easy way of thinking this is that I would like to synchronize the data from ITM Platform into HubSpot. Right? So whenever a project is updated in ITM Platform, it gets updated in HubSpot. Now, extensions can have two main ways of working. We can have extensions by events or through a scheduler. But what happens is really the same, right? First is the trigger. In an event is something happening, usually something happening in ITM Platform. In the scheduler, you set the schedule. So whenever something occurs, like project updated, or when we reach the time, the plugin will be activated. It will receive a notification to activate itself, and then it will do stuff. You will configure that stuff. So in the end, we need basically to understand how to identify the trigger and how to create the actions that we require. Plugins look like this, okay? Don't worry if it looks a little bit intimidating. I will try to explain it step by step. It uses a special format called JSON. JSON is a lightweight format, and this format will allow me to identify the data, right? So it's easy to store and transport. JSON will consist of pairs, pair values, name and value, for example, action, REST call, method, post, output, login info, right? So we can identify a name of an element or a property to the left, and to the right, we will identify the value, right? That is the basis of JSON. Data is separated by commas. So each time that I need to identify a new property or a new element, I'm going to use a comma to separate it. And I can also identify objects and arrays. Objects are a collection of properties. For example, a single action, right? I see actions, plural here, and I have one set of elements in between curly braces. So we have action, URL, method, description, output, payload, data type. All those are elements of the same action, okay? And if I have a collection of objects, right, separated by comma, as you can see from here, then those will be in between brackets, like actions. It can be multiple actions. It can be 1, 2, 10, 50 different actions, right? Those actions will be identified by those, the collection of the collection of actions will be identified by these brackets, okay? All right, so let's move forward into our demo. I'm going to show you a couple of samples, all right? So let me again first start with the documentation. I'm going to navigate to the developers documentation site, and in here I have the extensions documents. Let's take a quick look. It will explain to you some of the concepts that I've been speaking about, like JSON, the script, and all that. You're about to see it live, okay? And we believe that the best way of learning this is through samples. So we provide you with 5 samples. Let me introduce you to those samples, and we will try to use a couple of these samples, maybe 3 of these samples. The first one: when a project updates, send a message to a static email address, right? You have a lot of notifications in ITM Platform, but if a project is updated, you don't have a specific notification, let's say to the PMO, right? So if you are part of the PMO, how can you know that a project has been updated or created, right? You don't have a notification for that, but you can build one through custom extensions. This is actually, in my opinion, this is the most powerful extension of them all, because it is really easy to understand, and it will be the starting point of you creating multiple extensions, okay? Example 2, when a purchase actual value updates, send an email to a static address if the amount exceeds the purchase budget. So in here, we try to introduce also the fact that you can identify conditions or create conditions, right? Do not run the plugin if the conditions are not met. But if the conditions are met, then I need this to happen, this and that, okay? So we can use conditions. Example 3, send a daily email to the project manager for a specific project containing all tasks whose end date is later than today. Now in here, we introduce 2 new concepts. First, the scheduler-based trigger, right? Because the 2 previous examples are event-based. Something happens in ITM Platform, and usually we like to trigger immediately a plugin. But in this case, this is going to be scheduler-based. For example, at 7 a.m., at 8 a.m., right? And the second is loop, right? We can loop through tasks, finding those tasks that will meet the criteria that we want. For example, the future tasks or tasks that should be completed today, okay? Example 4, synchronize ITM Platform's clients to HubSpot companies. So this example, it's very powerful because it will allow you to see how you can create a connection between ITM Platform and a third-party tool, right? Like HubSpot in this case, but you can name whatever you want. It can be Salesforce, it can be SAP, it can be a lot of different things, right? That will support the same type of connections. Most of commercial applications will support the same principles that you will see in ITM Platform. Example 5, allow users to input revenue actual amount if it's less or equal to projected amount. Now, in this case, we introduce you to another very powerful concept. In the previous samples, 1 to 4, the plugin works and the end user does not need exactly to know if the event was triggered, if it worked, if it didn't work. Maybe the information that the plugin will compute is not for this project manager, right? It can be for a PMO or another system. In this example, we'll show you how we can interact to the end user through the UI. So it is also really powerful. And what we are trying to do, for example, is to prevent from capturing a data that is not approved, right? For example, if I said I'm going to receive 10,000 of revenue, right, and I try to capture something different, like for example 5,000, then that is not allowed because we said it should be 10,000. Okay. All right. Again, I'm going to advise you to take a closer look at this documentation. It will explain a lot. Okay. But to make a better use of our time, I would like to start doing the examples. So I'm going to click on example 1. And this will take me to GitHub. Don't worry, it's a public site where a lot of developing projects are published. So what you are seeing really is completely public, right? Let's use this first example to understand how these custom plugins work. So in here is going to give me also a description, right? And it will identify piece by piece whatever goes inside in the plugin, right? So let's understand it better. I'm going to navigate back to ITM Platform. This is my demo environment. Actually, let me refresh just in case. Yes, that sometimes happens. Sorry, let me navigate back again, go to the demo environment. Yes, full access because I'm going to require to access the configuration area. Let's go to the customization, and in here, I'm going to find a plugin panel. All right. So as you can see, we provide you with some basic out-of-the-box plugins that you can use or not use, right? Those are not activated unless you choose to activate it. But for example, if you have Jira and you would like to interchange data, you would like to synchronize data from Jira into ITM Platform, so you have better visibility on what is going on in Jira, you can do it through these extensions. This time, I'm going to click on New Extensions. And actually, let me close this, right? I'm going to minimize menu. Let me arrange this so we can take a better look, right? So I'm going to arrange this. So we have our working area to the left and the documentation to the right. All right. So let's click on New Extension first. It will give me a unique name. Don't worry about this one. It is provided automatically by the system. Okay. But you need to give it a name. That'll be a title. For example, example 1, right? Very creative today. All right. You can optionally include a short description. Let's create a short description so you can see it in the code. Sends an email to a fixed email address when a project is updated. All right. This will create kind of like the placeholder for the extension. As you can see now, I'm under example 1. Okay, so I'm working within that plugin, and it contains 4 tabs at the top. We will start with the code editor. The others I will introduce it afterwards. Now, you can use, if you know a little bit or a lot about web development, you don't need me to explain to you how to work with one code editor, right? In this case, you don't need to download anything else. You can go work directly with a code editor that we provide to you. The first set of elements, properties in here, right, is going to be the name, the internal name created by the system. This AVG string, it will create an icon, right? I can speak about this a little bit after, but if you want, as you can see, since this is completely open, you can create your own custom icon. You're about to see it in a few minutes. Then we have details, features, and config. Let's see about details. Details will contain just generally identification properties like the name, a short description, and a long description. As you can see, we also include the 3 languages that we have in ITM Platform: English, Spanish, and Portuguese. This is completely optional, and we already configured, but if you want to make changes, I can change it from here as well. Next is features, right? This is the important part. This is where you're going to identify the trigger and your actions. And as you can see, it already contains something, the trigger, but nothing else. And the last part is a config. The config is for how we want to turn it on or off, right? At some point, maybe you want to work with a plugin, you're still coding it, you don't want to activate it. At some point, you will like to test it. So these different conditions can be configured in this area config. And updated is simply the date when this plugin was created. All right, so let's focus on the features, okay? You can see in our documentation, we have that same area for details, title, version, short description, etc. Let's focus on features and actions. First, the trigger, okay? I can copy and paste, or I can retype. I usually retype just to make sure that I'm really understanding what I'm doing, right? So I can better describe this. First is the identification of the trigger itself. It's going to be an event. Remember, we have two types of triggers. We have an event or we have a schedule. In this case, it's going to be an event. Now, I need to be more specific. I need to identify which event, right? So the name of the event, as stated in my documentation, is going to be updated, okay? So that's what I should put in there. Next, the entity. I can update a lot of different things in ITM Platform. I can update a project, I can update a task, I can update a risk, right? In this case, I'm looking for project. So in other words, this tells ITM Platform the specific event that I'm looking for is the updated event in the project entity, okay? All right, and I'm gonna enter a description. Right, project update event will send the email. Okay. All right. Now, next, under the description, I need to add actions. This is where kind of the magic will work, right? Will happen. So since actions is plural, it can be a collection of different actions. I need to include brackets, okay? And inside those brackets, I'm going to code the different actions. Each action will contain certain properties. In this case, the action that I'm looking for is email, okay? So I'm going to close that in between curly braces. All right, which properties do we need? First, the name of the action itself. The action is going to be email. This tells ITM Platform, use your internal email mailing system, okay, to send out an email, to send out a message. I'm not specifying what is the account that will send it, how is going to be sent it, right? Nothing. I'm going to just specify the specific properties of the message itself. ITM Platform handles the rest. I'm going to send it to someone, right? Since I want to show it live, I'm going to use my own personal email. Okay. Then I need to configure the subject. That's start to keep project updated. Now, another form part. Do you see these double curly braces? Those are used in ITM Platform to identify variables. In this case, I don't know what specific project. It can work with anyone, right? So I need ITM Platform to identify the name of that project and use it as part of the subject. So to that, I need to include double curly braces and then input project that name. How can I know which variables I can use? Well, remember, you can always go to the developer's documentation, go to extensions, and from here you can you can identify those variables, those elements that will allow you to use data coming from projects, from tasks, from anywhere, pretty much. Okay. So take a look at the documentation. All right, so that's the subject. Now the body. For the body, and since I want to produce it well formatted, I'm going to use HTML. Again, don't worry if you don't know much about HTML. You can use, for example, Word to code an HTML sequence script, right? And then you can paste it in here so you have a good looking email. All right, just to save time, I'm going to copy this line and paste it over here. Okay. All right. Let me modify this a little bit. The project, something was updated. Okay. All right. Nothing more. Let's see it in action. So the next thing that I need to do is save my plugin, save my code. All right. Now, the next step is going to be to turn it on. So for that, let me show you first the event history. If I click in that tab, ITM Platform will display if this plugin has been run, right? Has run in the past. What happened, when it happened, okay? So this is the place to check if the plugin is actually working. In the script logs, I'm going to find extra information about those executions in case I'm doing some troubleshooting, okay? Debugging. And in the configuration tab, right, you can see it says activate extension. What is this? Let me explain it a little bit further. I go to the code editor, make collapse details and features. This time I'm going to explain the config, right? There is one piece named is active, okay? This is the label that I want to display. Activate extension, okay? I can include an optional tooltip. Let me show you, for example, select this option if you want to activate this plugin, okay? The type is a checkbox, right? And if it's the fact that it is required or no, right? In this case, it's false, right? So I can choose to turn it on or off. So this area will create this checkbox, activate extension. And you see this? If I hover over that, it will display the tooltip that I just configured. So you can control what goes inside the configuration tab as well. For example, selecting other elements, other parameters for your code. In this case, I'm going to choose to activate extension and click on save. And now let's take a look, right? Configuration saved, perfect. So now I'm going to go to the event history. It should be blank. And now I'm going to make a change. I'm going to trigger that event. How? Well, let's go to, again, the demo environment, access, and I'm going to modify a project. Let's go to projects. All right, let's modify a new flagship product. And it can be really anything because the trigger is just update a project. It doesn't specify what type of update. Okay, for example, I can select, let me change something here. Like, for example, product code. I'm going to put in here ABC123. So I'm going to hit on save. And what happens is ITM Platform saves the changes and it should trigger the plugin. Let's take a look. If I refresh this page, now we see it, okay? It successfully triggered the event. Project update event will send the email, completed. Last execution, next execution, if it's scheduled, right? The details successfully executed, project updated, perfect. So far, so good, right? Just to give you that, if I go to script logs, yes, sorry, nothing will show up in here. No worries. We don't need to troubleshoot anything right now. As you can see, it successfully completed the process. It did something, right? Now, I would like to see the effect. For that, I'm going to need to move to my inbox. Let's refresh. And here we go. We have a notification from ITM Platform internal system, project update notification. The project new flagship product was updated. So as you can see, it works. All right, so that'll be our first sample. Now let me give you real quick another example. Let me show you example 2. Okay, this again will allow me to introduce you to conditions. So what I'm going to do is navigate back to plugin panel. And as you can see, I have now example 1, right? This icon is the one that is identified by the SVG piece that I showed you before. So if you don't want it and you want to create your own image like this one, you can do it through an SVG image. Let's go ahead and create a new extension. I'm going to name this example 2. Okay, short description. Now, let's put the short description inside the code. So no worries. Hide the menu so we have a better look. All right, perfect. So as a short description, okay, I can enter this and copy it in here. All right, again, let's configure the trigger. The trigger, again, is going to be an event. So it's going to be immediately. The event is very similar to the previous one. It's going to be updated. But this time, the entity is different. The entity is purchase. Okay. Now, we can add a condition. The condition is going to be this. Convert to double, and in parentheses, input purchase actual amount. What am I doing here? I'm reading the actual amount for the purchase, right? That is a parameter. And then I'm converting it to a very specific format to double. Double is simply a way of identifying a type of number, okay? With double precision. So that'll be the number of decimals after the decimal dot, okay? I'm gonna do the same this time for the projected amount. So what I'm saying in here, I'm sorry, these double quotes are wrong. Those should be at the end, right? What I'm doing is telling ITM Platform only trigger this plugin if the actual amount is greater than the projected amount. If it's less or it's the same, then don't do it, right? I'm not interested in that. All right. Description is gonna be the same description that I entered before, and then the actions. Again, since we can have multiple actions, I'm going to use square brackets, curly braces to identify the different properties for the action. The action is going to be the same as before. It's going to be email. Who's going to receive this? Myself. The subject. Purchase actual value exceeds the projected amount. Okay. And as for the body, again, just to save time, I'm going to copy what is inside here. As you can see, it's again HTML, and I'm using those variables to identify the actual amount and the projected amount. Okay. So let me copy that. Right. Looks like everything is okay. Again, I'm going to have the same checkbox to turn it on. Let's go ahead. Oh, sorry. I'm forgetting about one thing. Async true. Sorry. And looks like I have an error. What's the error? Oh, I have a double quote in here. That's why. And I did not include it. That one. All right. That's why this code editor is important, because it's going to highlight if you have errors in your code. Sorry, I forgot about one last thing. Also in the same area for features, okay? Outside the list of actions. Async true. Okay. So we can control also if the actions are going to be asynchronous or synchronous. All right. Let's go ahead, click on save. This time should not contain an error. All right, looks okay. Let's go to the configuration and activate extension. All right, and like before, let's see it in action. For that, I'm going to use the same project that I have here. If you remember, we are configuring, sorry, are we configuring purchases? I don't remember. Yes, we are configuring purchases. So first, I'm going to add a new purchase to show you something. New purchase. Select the budget account, whatever it is. Current status, blah, blah, blah. Let's select $10,000. Okay. And click on save. Question. Do you think that creating a new purchase will trigger the event? That is, I hope, an interesting question. It will not, because create and update are two different events, right? And we can conditionally work with one or the other, or many different events, right? So no, what we said is we are modifying an existing purchase. So this time, if I modified, for example, let's put it under order placed. No, let's put it on paid, right? This will make sure that the actual amount goes to the, the project amount goes to the actual amount. So my next question is, will this trigger the event? Yes or no? Let's update it. Let's refresh. And the answer is no. Why not? Since I'm updating the purchase. The reason is because of the condition, right? Remember, we created a condition. Let me show it here real quick. It needs to be greater, right? If it's not greater, then it's not going to do anything. So this time, what I'm going to do is, well, instead of 10,000, I said 12,000. I'm also updating it, right? But this time, I'm forcing it to meet the criteria. And here we go. Now it triggered. And if I go back to my email, in a second, I'm going to receive the notification. Here we go. the purchase actual value 12,000 exceeds the project amount 10,000. Of course, you can configure it much better than this to include the name of the project, when this was updated, and a lot of different things that you will need to make the decision. Also, you can provide with a link, for example, to navigate directly from the email message to the specific project or the specific purchase. Okay. All right. As you can expect, this can be much more complicated than what you're seeing. Okay. I don't want to overcomplicate this. This is merely an introduction to how to get started with extensions. Again, I strongly suggest to go through this documentation. It is not very long, right? Although it's a bit technical, it is not very complicated, and it is comprehensive on what you can do. Let me speak about some limitations. Right now, at this time, you cannot you don't have full access to just all events and all entities inside ITM Platform, right? Let me show you what we can use. We can use basically this, right? We can use the task entity, and we can say when the task is inserted or updated, when a project is inserted or updated, when a purchase is updated, as you could see, when a revenue, right, is pre-inserted, inserted, pre-updated, or updated. Revenue is the most required feature from our customers, right? So these are the different events that you can use. Or, of course, the scheduler, right? That does not depend on a specific thing happening. It depends on timing. And example 3 shows you how to make use of the scheduler. There is another important thing that you need to know. Sorry, let me check where this is. The different actions, okay? The different actions that you can use. For example, a REST call, right? These REST calls are the ones that will allow you to connect to an external source, an external app. Let me see what else we have. The email action, the loop action, when we need to loop through a list of elements like tasks or risks or anything, right? Loops with the variables, we can also loop using variables. So there's a lot of examples, good examples in here, conditionals and so on. And my next suggestion is, once you are familiar with this information, try out all examples. Well, maybe example 4, if you don't have hotspot, is going to be difficult, right? But at least it will give you an idea on how you can produce a connection between ITM Platform and a third-party tool. The last thing that I wanted to mention today is this. Let me go to our main page. So we really understand that these can be very, very complicated, right? At the beginning can be simple, but real quick, it can get super complicated. That's why if you find the use of extensions something that you want to implement on your system, but you don't feel prepared to do something like that, we always offer a service of custom extensions development. And depending on the complexity on what you can do, right, we can offer you this service. It is a simple matter of having a meeting. We will hear your requirements, and we will determine first whether that is possible through custom extensions, and how much time we will need to dedicate to build your custom extension. and then you can accept it or no, right? So this is another possibility. You can play around with those, but then at the end, you can ask us to build the custom extension for you, right? And again, this is going to be much flexible and faster and better and cheaper, of course, than full custom development. Okay. All right. So I hope that you found today's session useful. I would like to check your questions, if you don't mind, while I read them. Please help us get 5 stars in Capterra if you can. And just sign into Capterra and give us your thoughts, your comments on our system and our services. It's much appreciated. We'll check again if we have questions. Okay, yeah, looks like we don't have questions for today. So then with that, I thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again in our next ITM Platform training session. Thank you very much. Have a great day.